There we go. Okay, Ishmael, tell me, how do you ground yourself to produce your knowledge to something so tangible, such as your book, Cosmic Origin?
I've always been disciplined. As far as I recall, I've always been very, when it comes to my routine, I stick to it. If I put my mind to something and I set any particular goal, I stick to it no matter what. So from the beginning, I've always felt like I was more of a vehicle for higher intelligences, or instrument rather, to bring forth, information that hasn't yet been, I guess, restored to the earth, because this is information that was once common knowledge during the days of Atlantis, but of course, due to the infiltration of the dark hats and their alien overlords, a lot of this information became omitted from all records and histories. So to me, it was more of I need to be disciplined. I need to keep my vessel clean. I need to keep my mind clean, my body, and of course I need to meditate in order for me to be able to anchor and download all this information, because I knew that I had some sort of connection to my multidimensional self. I call it my galactic self. And in order for me to establish that clear connection, I need to be in the right state of mind. I need to be healthy physically. It's a balance. It's a balance. So to me, it was all about discipline, knowing that my purpose here was greater than just the average Joe, and that I was being used by these higher intelligences that were, getting ready to bring forth this information when the time was right. And so that's how that book came about. It was a two-way process. It was me getting downloads or getting these transmissions from my higher self, and then it was also me doing the research to back it up. So I did develop an intense zeal for investigation, for uncovering, and researching the group, I guess, information that is not available to the general public, in order to see if there was any, confirmation or validation to the information that I was receiving through my transmissions. And lo and behold, there was, the researchers there to back it up, not only through quantum physics, which is the new avenue of science that is bridging the gap between ancient spirituality and cutting edge science, in favor, of course, of creation, in favor of creation by intelligent design, and, and all that stuff. So it's a combination of everything. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You mentioned it depended, there was a timing to all of this, basically. And I find that interesting because it is so much of, if something is not meant to happen, you'll come up against so much resistance. And as much as maybe a part of yourself, we could call it ego, wants it to be scheduled to a certain time frame, it just doesn't happen. And how do you go about, do you just listen to that, or do you find yourself sometimes getting frustrated?
I did at times, where I would sit there in front of my laptop and I wasn't connecting. So I would figure out, or I would try to think about what to write. And I came to the conclusion that I could only write when I am in that state of mind, when I'm connected, because it just flows, without the connection to the higher levels or to my higher self, there is no flow, there is no transmission. So yeah, I found myself like that in many cases throughout the production of our Cosmic Origin. That's why it took me 10 years. There's times where I took a year off. I put down the manuscript. It was incomplete, and I had just, and I would just take a whole break for a year, or sometimes a year and a half, because I wasn't connecting, and every time I connected, okay, let's go back to the manuscript. But overall, I was guided, by something greater than myself.
I love that. And it's funny because I guess timing is not relevant to those dimensions, whereas down here it is so much. So yeah, there's that kind of conflict, perhaps. I don't know. Okay.
Very so true.
Yeah. So it's not always how we want. So would you say people of a higher frequency have a harder time to be disciplined in general?
No, it's actually the other way around. People that are vibrating at high frequency are normally, part of the reason why they're vibrating at high frequency is because they're in control of their thoughts, they're in control of their emotions. They set their intention for the day. In other words, they are in control of their circumstances. They're mastering life. They're becoming masters of their own life. And that's what we came here to do, to learn how to master our mind, our thoughts, and pretty much be the co-creators of our own realities.
Right, thank you. Okay, so you mentioned diet helps. So certainly keeping that clear vessel, polluting it with what we would call junk food, would that block those down?
Not only junk food, but also drugs and alcohol, tobacco. Those are all toxins that pollute the communication transmissions.
Okay.
When you don't have a healthy body, it's very hard to communicate with the higher intelligences, because your body is like a river. When the river is clogged with debris, there is no flow of communication. But as soon as you take away the toxins and the debris and all the clutter that comes from these negative things that we put in our consumption, that we put in our body, then you become a clear channel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so jumping straight to something different, straight to love, actually. So do you believe love is a feeling that comes from Earth?
Well, love is an innate, I guess it's something that's already embedded within us, because we all come from love. I mean, from the point of pure love, everything was made. All of creation stems from that point of pure love, unconditional compassion, understanding, and so we all have that in us to love. Every single species out there. I'm not just speaking about those here on Earth, but I'm talking about those that are inhabiting the multiverse. Everyone has that in common. We all seek it. We all want to be loved. We all want to love. It's part of it's inherited in us as children of the One. That is the number one thing that we all fundamentally, whether we know it or not, are after. We want to have that connection with others, that unconditional connection with others, because that's the state of the universe. The universe is one big loving mechanism. It's the reason why everything exists is because of that unconditional love that is flowing everywhere, and it translates in the form of universal life force, which sustains life. Without that universal life force that sustains life, which is generated by pure love and compassion, everything will just fall out of place and nothing will exist anymore. So that's what holds. That's the glue of creation, pretty much at the fundamental level. Some call it the unified force, right? Some call it the spirit of God. But when you analyze it, well, what generates the spirit of God? What gives rise to this unified force that binds and permeates all of existence? Compassion, love.
Yeah, I love that. When this question came to me, this other thought came to me as well, and it's forgive me if it sounds really weird, but would you say the energy of love helped Moses part the Red Sea?
I think it was a huge component. Yeah, I think he was already living from his heart chakra. He was from the day he started his mission in the liberation of the Israelites back in those days. He was already embedded in compassion. He knew he was an instrument, and that his purpose then was bigger. Was to change the course of history. And so in order to be an instrument of the higher forces, you have to be anchored in love. Otherwise, there is no Buddhas, there is no Jesus, there is no Abrahams, there are no, you know what I mean? Prophets and all that stuff. Yeah.
Interesting. So it makes you wonder, people who are atheists, are they simply, they've blocked, maybe they have a blocked heart chakra?
Perhaps, yeah. Perhaps they have a blocked chakra, or they're just, unaware or unawakened yet. A lot of the people that are atheists are there as an antagonist to organized religion. It's like a communist. They're like rebels.
Yes.
So if they say organized religion says there's a God, well, I'm going to believe not, without investigating it for themselves and realizing that it's not God is not how religion portrays it. God is beyond the concept of just one man sitting on the throne with a beard judging us. That's the old concept, and that's where I guess we went wrong.
I agree. So the Indigenous here in Australia, I consider are quite spiritually evolved. Um,
Hmm.
and they talk about the dream time. They have a knowing, and they talk about this freely. So, having that in mind, what are your thoughts on Australia? Have you had much thoughts about Australia? Very far.
Just general thoughts. I understand that it's heavily penetrated by the deep state, and I do know that you guys have been through I guess, the hardest living conditions in the last 2 years because of that. In other words, you guys have had it the worst. And a lot of it has to do with underground, networks that have been established by the deep state and their associations with the negative aliens and stuff. But as far as like the indigenous people of Australia, just like the indigenous people of all lands, are
Mhm.
very, very sacred people. You could actually trace their origin back to the Pleiades in Lyra, where they originated.
Yes, yes,
Very
in
advanced
Korea.
spiritual things, where they don't. The more advanced you are spiritually, the less external technology you need. How does that sound?
Oh, I love that. That's a real quote right there. Okay, I'm gonna write that one down. Thank you, Ishmael. Also, before I continue, I just got a few more questions. I'll let you go. The pronunciation of your name, am I saying correct, or how do you really say it?
It's Ishmael in English.
Ishmael.
Yeah.
Okay. And Ishmael, I have a question also regarding your name. Is this how did your parents get inspired to call you Ishmael? Are you called after some other relative in your family, or?
Yes, my dad's name was Ishmael as well.
Wow, I just picked up on that. I don't didn't really. Hmm. Okay, thank you. I know that may be a bit personal, but I was just
It's okay.
well, I had to ask.
Oh, no
Okay, so
problem.
thank you. So would you say there is a gap in the market regarding the information you provide? Do you think are you feeling there's more of a demand and a bigger audience for the kind of content you create and the book you've published?
Absolutely. I think that this is the time, everything happens in divine timing. So when the book was finished about 2, 3 years ago, it just sat there. It
Mm.
was a 300-page manuscript, well, 290 after the editing. And it just sat there. And I was told to wait until the time was right for the collective to be ready. Because if I would have published it 2 years ago, um, the collective wouldn't have been ready for this, for the galactic history, and people were still invested in or blown away with what they learned in ancient aliens, and and learning about Roswell, and learning about Area 51 and the Greys and Dracos and the Pleiadians, but they didn't have an understanding of the history of those wars of, between the benevolent races and the malevolent races. And so, but now they do. Now people are at a collective level of, they're ready. In other words, they're ready to understand the bigger picture and how our Earth connects to the organization of the cosmos. And yeah, I believe everything happened in divine timing. So, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm just, it's a blessing because I'm helping so many people understand their mission, their multidimensionality. I get so many thank yous from people from all around the world who have been activated, and just by reading my book or listening to my interviews, filling in all these gaps for them. I mean, that just brings joy to my heart, because it's like I feel like, it's increasing the awakening process. I feel like I put it on fast forward with the release of this book,
Yes.
because there's different awakening, and so this is like putting everything into perspective, connecting it to the galactic scenario, and then beyond the galactic scenario, and like why we're really here and where we're heading eventually. Because a lot of people didn't really have an understand as to like what was going to happen after the ascension. We're going to be entering a new area, the age of Aquarius, but then what happens after the age of Aquarius? And so this is where my information comes in.
Yeah, and it does help for people to have an understanding of the past in order to understand who they are now and where we are going. Um, so it's a whole circular thing, really. Okay, so thank you for that informative answer there. Okay, would you also say, just a few more questions, this awakening has happened since the global, I hate to say the word, shutdown?
Yeah,
From,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
everything has a purpose. Everything has a, you know, from the highest level, it's all being divinely orchestrated. So even the Darkettes have a role to play. And, what they thought was gonna, give them the upper hand ended up giving them the downer hand. More people went inward as a result of staying in their home. More people started doing the research. People started learning things just because they didn't have nothing else to do. And I think that the what happened 2 years ago really brought people into going within, learning beyond what they've been taught and really reflecting on life. And I think that that was a good thing. I think that everything happened for a reason. And so now people are waking up worldwide. It's like becoming a domino effect. The wave of awakening is just reaching many, many people.
Absolutely. Okay, one last question is, if you were to incarnate again, which I assume we all do, where would you and who would you choose to incarnate onto Earth again?
Well, I strongly believe I'm going to be keeping this body for all eternity. This is my
Mm.
last incarnation.
Okay.
That's we could all research that. That's the conclusions that I ever derived at just from my own research and study. But as far as like coming back to the earth, or like, I don't really think that, 1 second. Okay, so basically, sorry about that.
Okay.
Um, I don't think I'm going to be reincarnating again. I think I'm going to be ascending, if anything. I'm just going to be taking my body up with me into higher dimensions and higher levels of reality. As my body becomes, more less denser and more pure and less dense or matterized and more light. Eventually we're all heading to becoming pure light. But yeah, this is the body that I'm always going to materialize when it comes to existing in the material realms or in the physical dimensions.
Okay, Ishmael, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, and I think you're busy with your dog. Is that right?
Yeah, my dog is going around. Yeah, that's her collar moving by when you guys hear her walking around.
I love it. I love it. All the love. Okay, well, thank you from Melbourne, Australia. All my love to you in Los Angeles. I have been there, and I've been meaning to come back. So here's wishing on that. Thank you so much.
You're
Also,
welcome.
do you want to say anything extra? I sorry, I forgot to add and ask you that question.
Um, well, let's see.
Up to you.
I'm going to be presenting some valuable information pretty soon. I'm going to be doing it on my platforms and on other interviews regarding the infiltration of the Galactic Federation by the return of Enki, of the negative Anunnaki, who has sided with the AI. And what he's been doing in an effort to try to regain control of the galaxy through infiltration by harvesting our galactic genetic codings and abducting women that are, so this is something that's been going on in the last few months. And so I'm going to talk about that pretty soon, and how the Galactic Federation is now switching their name from the Galactic Federation to the Galactic Alliance because of this infiltration. There's going to be a split in the Federation because of that. So, but again, the solar flash is also very imminent, and I do believe that the solar flash is going to cause a bifurcation of timelines, where those that are vibrating at a high frequency through love, compassion, understanding, and joy are not going to be able to experience the negative timeline. They're going to be going off into a different, I guess, a different Earth, which is what we're all going to be heading into as we ascend. And then those that go to the negative timeline, unfortunately, because of the fact that they weren't, living from their heart, or they weren't, vibrating at a high frequency, are going to go into the negative timeline. But at the end of that negative time, at the end of the millennium, I'm sorry, there's going to be one final clash against what Enki's doing now in the presence. And so, yeah, that's going to be something that I'm going to be revealing pretty soon. And it goes into great detail. I just wanted to point out.
That totally resonates. I just want to add, I feel that energy of Enki is infiltrating all these communities in the truth, if we call it that, communities. There's so much bickering. It's ridiculous. Like all of a sudden,
Yeah, everybody's calling him our galactic father, that he made us, but it's actually the other way around. He took an already existing race that was made by, the real creator source, and he took it and he genetically manipulated, and he downgraded it, and that's what he did. That's why we fell from a heightened state of consciousness into a lower state of consciousness after the collapse of Atlantis, because of what Enki did, hundreds of thousands of years ago. But again, that's all can be recalibrated.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ishmael. I'm going to officially cut it there. But personally, thank you. I was a little bit nervous at the beginning, as you could tell. So I was just very happy to have you on board, and I couldn't even get my words straight. So thank you for being patient with me. And I wish you all the best. I'm going to keep reading the book. I love it. I feel like I'm getting activated as I read it. So yeah, you are truly a gift. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, your sister. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.